There are bad TV scenes, and then there are TV scenes that psychiatrists say can push viewers to commit unthinkable acts. Here's proof that some small-screen moments really do deserve to be on the cutting room floor. Believe it or not, The Big Bang Theory got off on the wrong foot. The powers that be reflected on the original pilot episode and decided to cut one particular scene from the version that went into syndication. They thought it was a little inappropriate, and they're not wrong.
Is this the high IQ sperm bank?
If you have to ask, maybe you shouldn't be here.
That's right, the very first scene of the Big Bang pilot involves Leonard and Sheldon going to a genius-only sperm bank to make some money. For a show where most of the jokes amount to, "Look at how nerdy these nerds are," it's a pretty risque way to kick things off. It also feels out of character for Sheldon, who later in the series would struggle with the ins and outs of sexual behavior.
There's no guarantee that our sperm is going to generate high IQ offspring. Think about that. I have a sister with the same basic DNA mix who hostesses at Fuddruckers.
The sperm bank scene did make it back in the episode if you're streaming it on Max. While yes, the scene does raise some questions in the age of binge watching, it's arguably necessary since there's a callback in season 12 when Zach and Marissa ask Leonard to be their sperm donor. The characters in Squid Game are put through the ringer, but in one case, a real-life person got a touch of the Squid Game treatment thanks to a massive production oversight. In the first episode, Song Gi-hun receives a card containing a phone number he can call if he wishes to compete in the games. One problem, the number was real. And after the show's premiere, one person was inundated with thousands of calls a day. If you think that's funny, think again. The unlucky person told Money Today, "Since the airing of Squid Game, I've been receiving text messages and calls 24 hours a day that make it difficult for me to live my daily life. I get calls out of curiosity day and night without any sense of time, to the point where my phone battery would run out in half a day." And it wasn't just one person who was subjected to the phone nightmare. Someone else also received frequent calls, since their phone number was only one digit off. The person told the Korea Times, "The stress from incessant prank calls is driving me crazy." And get this, neither person had any idea that the calls were coming from Squid Game fans. Netflix edited the episode so that viewers can no longer see the phone number, but we have to wonder if they kicked in for PTSD treatment for their unwitting victims. The first season of 13 Reasons Why centers around the suicide of Hannah Baker and the cassette tape she'd left for the people in her life to help them understand why she killed herself. While suicide is a topic of discussion throughout the season, things came to a head in episode 13, tape 7, side A, in which viewers actually see what happened. Creator Brian Yorkie released a statement to X explaining the choice, writing, "Our creative intent in portraying the ugly, painful reality of suicide in such graphic detail in Season 1 was to tell the truth about the horror of such an act and make sure no one would ever wish to emulate it." But many experts disagreed, pointing out how depictions of suicide can make viewers more likely to contemplate the act themselves. Immediately following the backlash, Netflix added more trigger warnings.
If you are struggling with these issues yourself, this series may not be right for you.
Eventually, more than 2 years after the show first aired, it pulled the scene entirely. But even that may not be enough. Lisa Horowitz, a pediatric psychologist at the National Institute of Mental Health, told NPR, "One of the things that mental health clinicians recommend is that you don't talk about or publish the suicide note. And 13 Reasons Why is really 13 hours of a suicide note, and that's a problem." The Office went for shock humor in the cold open of Season 6, Episode 8, Koi Pond. The Dunder Mifflin staff set up an appropriately lame haunted house for kids to go through, with Michael Scott promising to really scare them. At the end of the tour, we see that Michael's attempt to scare them involves him faking his own death via suicide before cutting the act, turning to the children and saying,
"Kids, just remember, suicide is never the answer."
All the while, Michael is dressed as one of the in-a-box guys from Saturday Night Live. Unsurprisingly, many viewers complained, and the moment also reportedly drew criticism from Karen Zucker, then wife of NBC Universal CEO Jeff Zucker, who previously worked in suicide prevention. The entire cold open was subsequently removed from reruns, and is nowhere to be found on its current home at Peacock. Blackface dates back to the 19th century, when white performers would wear dark makeup and perform offensive caricatures of black people. It's an incredibly racist practice, but somehow it continues to crop up on screen in the 21st century, and on mainstream shows like 30 Rock, The Office, and 5 episodes of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. In 2020, during the Black Lives Matter protest, many streamers finally pulled or edited episodes depicting blackface from their lineups. In a Season 9 episode of The Office, Dwight Christmas, Dwight dresses up as Belle Snickle, a figure from Germanic folklore.
I am nigh!
After researching the character, his colleagues become worried about his sidekick.
His partner, Shvate Pete, or Black Peter, a slave boy, often portrayed in colorful pantaloons and blackface.
Dwight insists he'd never go that far, but he already has. He tells Nate, who's wearing blackface, to get rid of it. The scene can no longer be found on Peacock. Office creator Greg Daniels explained to The Hollywood Reporter, the show employed satire to expose unacceptable behavior and deliver a message of inclusion. Blackface is unacceptable, and making the point so graphically is hurtful and wrong. I'm sorry for the pain that caused. Game of Thrones was such a massive production that it's something of a miracle it came together as well as it did, even if it completely fumbled the ending. There were multiple signs that the final season was coming undone a bit, such as the presence of a paper coffee cup resting on a table next to Daenerys Targaryen in the episode The Last of the Starks.
This is it! Here it comes! Here it comes!
Hey!
Oh my god, that's so cool!
Contrary to popular belief, it actually wasn't a Starbucks cup as the whole internet immediately assumed. It came from a coffee shop in Northern Ireland near where they were filming, which probably could have used all of the publicity that Starbucks got instead.
The coffee cup got more press than the final season altogether.
As expected, HBO edited out the coffee cup pretty quickly, heading off any speculation about what kind of coffee shops are present in Westeros.
They thought you were great.
It's a good thing there are no Starbucks in this fictional land. If the baristas have trouble spelling common names, can you imagine them trying to spell Daenerys? Another embarrassing gaffe would befall Game of Thrones in its final episode, when a water bottle was spotted during a scene. The Star Wars franchise includes lightsabers that can slice a body in two, and space whales that can create tunnels through hyperspace, but apparently a guy wearing jeans is a step too far. In The Mandalorian Chapter 12, The Siege, Din Djarin gets into a shootout with some stormtroopers, and if you look closely during this sequence, you can see a person standing behind the doorway wearing a green shirt, watch, and blue jeans. It's an incredibly hilarious thing to miss, and sharp-eyed fans mocked it mercilessly. There was even a meme dubbing the person Admiral Jeff Blue Jeans, complete with a mock-up of his very own action figure. Jeans Guy was digitally removed shortly after the episode aired, but while he may be gone, the internet never forgets. It may be a network for children, but Nickelodeon has a history of deleting offensive scenes deemed unsuitable for broadcast. The SpongeBob SquarePants episode Procrastination ran afoul of the network's guidelines in more ways than one. It's a classic episode where SpongeBob struggles to write an essay to try and get his boating license.
I am about to write the greatest essay of all time. Like most great essays, it will be written on paper.
There's one scene involving Patrick applying suntan lotion to Sandy that was later removed, potentially for being a bit too suggestive. The same could probably be said of Nickelodeon removing a beat where SpongeBob does calisthenics with his nose moving in a way that suggests another body part. But the most notable scene to be cut from reruns involves a moment where SpongeBob daydreams about what he can do once he actually gets his license. It's a live-action fantasy sequence of a drag racer burning out, flipping over, and crashing into a wall. The whole thing is pretty violent and probably not something parents want their kids to see. While all three of these scenes were gone for a while, they eventually came back in 2019 when Procrastination began airing on Nicktoons. Nickelodeon followed suit by bringing the scenes back to broadcast in 2024, and they exist in their entirety on Paramount+. When Animaniacs was rebooted in 2020, it maintained its original devil-may-care attitude. But there was one moment that went a little too far. In one episode, Brain creates an infomercial offering his assistance to alien invaders interested in conquering Earth in exchange for allowing him to rule, which has always been his big plan.
Gee, Brian, what do you want to do tonight?
The same thing we do every night, Pinky. Try to take over the world!
At the end of the ad, he posts what you would assume is a made-up phone number. But as the people who got curious and called it found out, it was actually the number of a phone sex hotline, which isn't ideal when the target demographic is children. Hulu temporarily pulled the episode before bringing it back with all the text displayed on screen during the scene removed. So it was just Brain talking surrounded by a blue rectangle. That solved the problem, but it didn't really lend itself to the infomercial parody. So Hulu went back and re-edited it once more with new text. The phone number is now 1-800-555-0199, which is wisely a made-up number. If Squid Game and Animaniacs have taught producers anything, it's to always go ahead and give any fake number you want to use a call before putting it on screen. Everyone loves Bluey. It contains positive messages for kids, and even adults can watch a Bluey episode and bawl their eyes out at its utter sweetness. But not even Bluey is exempt from controversy. Various episodes have been met with contention over the years, including Season 1, Episode 8, Fruit Bat. The crux of the episode is that Bluey wants to be a fruit bat, but toward the beginning, she's seen sliding around on a wet bathroom floor like a penguin. It seems innocent enough, and it originally aired in Australia without incident. But when the episode aired globally, some countries cut the moment out of concern that kids could imitate Bluey's game.
Let's stop mucking around, eh? A bit of olive oil on those knees will do the trick.
There's no denying that sliding around on a bathroom floor is dangerous. Bluey's an energetic blue heeler puppy, but real-life children who get carried away could end up injuring themselves for sure. That being said, the wet bathroom floor sequence isn't anywhere near as triggering as seeing a real car crash on SpongeBob, for example. At the moment, Fruit Bat can be found on Disney Plus with the bathroom scene intact. So was the temporary removal of the scene an overreaction? Who knows? But so far, we're not aware of any children who have been harmed cosplaying as slippery blue puppies.